Welcome to episode 166 of the Grip Strip Podcast, the draft day edition of the Grip Strip Podcast. My name is Philip Matthew. I'm your host, and my co-host, an iRacing Indy 500 champion, a computer genius, a gentleman, and a scholar. His name is Josh Fine. What's going on, brother?
Hey, doing great, Phil, as always. A lot of drafting going on at Talladega this weekend, of course, and also, of course, this Thursday night, NFL Draft. So certainly a lot of drafting going to be done there as well. So, that's going to be a lot of the focus here coming up. But yeah, ready to get into it and try to digest what we saw at Talladega.
Yeah, there was a lot that took place at Talladega, a lot of wrecking. But Kyle Busch was the beneficiary of the BFFs battling there on the last lap of the race. Darrell Walsh Jr. and Ryan Blaney. Kyle Busch wins at Talladega for the first time in 15 years. His 62nd career Cup Series victory. And I guess it's redemption in a small sense from Daytona when he probably believed he won the Daytona 500. And in regulation, he did win the Daytona 500. But another person with 2 wins this year. So it doesn't look like the same amount of parity that existed last year is the case right now, though I do figure there's a bunch of guys that are probably going to add their name to the win list here as the season goes on. The XFinity series saw Jeb Burton and Jordan Anderson Racing win their first race. Jordan Anderson Racing winning their first race as a organization at a track where Jordan Anderson was hurt pretty bad last October in a truck. Jeb Burton gets his second career XFinity series victory, locks himself into the playoffs. That'll probably make things a little tighter for some of these other drivers that are on the edge or right on the cut line. A lot of destroyed equipment in that race, a lot of really bad decisions and things to question about the mental acuity or whatever. We'll get into the points and for both series as they head off to Dover. We'll talk about the NFL draft and also the news of Aaron finally getting traded to the New York Jets. And it looks like Green Bay made out pretty good in that trade after all this time. But Aaron will be the New York Jets starting quarterback this year. So we'll get into that, some of the things that Josh is seeing or looking at for this weekend, because he definitely has a lot more draft capital with his Jacksonville Jaguars than the 49ers do. They won't be drafting till late Friday evening unless something weird goes on. We'll also talk about, I think the Aaron deal, and there must have been one other piece that was going on, but I'll remember it as we go along. The Roundup is busy. Rally Croatia, WRC, Berlin, E-Prix doubleheader, World Superbikes were at Assen. And then we have a boatload of races this coming weekend. The 6 hours of Spa for World Endurance Championship, MotoGP and Moto2 at Jerez. Charlotte 4-wide Nationals for NHRA. Supercars will be at Wanneroo. Indy NXT at Baba. F2 and F3 at Baku. And actually F2 at Baku, not F3. I learned that earlier because doing Formula Talk with Sophia. So go and listen to that if you're so inclined. And we'll also I'll do previews and picks for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. There will be a sprint. This will be a sprint weekend for them. NASCAR Cup and XFinity at Dover and the IndyCar Grand Prix of Alabama. So basically the momentum rolling towards the Indianapolis 500 starts now with the Barber and leading into that these next few weeks after the open test at Indianapolis. Josh will let us know all things sim racing and iRacing in his sim segment, and we will close the deal. So as I mentioned previously, that would be nice. Oh, Roid Rage was actually named to the 75 list. Okay, that's not really shocking.
Cousin Carl.
Yeah, Cousin Carl. That's probably going to be a story when we're talking about the All-Star race once they, considering who they put on it. Pitbull, Armando as a what do you call Justin Marks likes to call him, is going to name his new album Trackhouse as an ode to, of course, the team that he co-owns with Justin Marks. amongst other news things. The Geico 500, at Talladega, ran pretty clean, nothing of great significance early. There was 2 incidents in the first stage. The issue for Michael McDowell, which basically plagued him the whole entire day. He ended up being 7 laps down at the end of the race. Then Chase Briscoe spinning out, getting on pit road when they were trying to make their first set of pit stops. In stage 2, they ran completely clean. Then the nonsense started in stage 3. There was 1, 2, 3, 4 different incidents, which included going through to overtime, in overtime where they had 2 incidents, which also the second one ended the race. Kyle Busch gets his first win at Talladega since 2008 and had just enough fuel to make it back to the finish line and come back around for another lap. Ryan Blaney, who had one of the better cars in the racetrack, one of his best racetracks, led the most laps, but ends up finishing second again. Chris Buescher finishes third. Chase Briscoe finishes fourth after starting fourth in the Mahindra Tractor's Yule Goat Ford. And Brad Keselowski rounds out the top 5. So 4 Fords in the top 5. Then Eric Jones, William Byron, Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, and Todd Gilliland round out the top 10. I picked the wrong guy from Front Row Motorsports, obviously. J.J. Ailey from tailback to 11th. Chase Elliott from 29th to 12th. Bowman as well was up there late. Ty Dillon ran pretty solid, considering he's Ty Dillon. Richard finished 15th. And Tyler Reddick with a destroyed race car finished 16th, just ahead of his car owner, Denny Hamlin. In the end, there were 27 cars on the lead lap. And then a lot of guys that probably were hoping or looking for better days late in the race that kind of got away from them. The likes of Darrell Walsh Jr., who was trying to block Ryan Blaney, and in the process, trying to block his best friend, and in the process wrecked himself, and then had a bunch of other people join him. AJ Allmendinger was clean for most of the day and then got involved in that last lap wreck, along with Pizza Face, Keebler Gibbs, who was running really well late in that race, ran out of fuel actually. Gagson got involved in the first wreck in the overtime, I think, or no, that was he was in the first wreck in overtime, got turned by Ross Chastain, and that took out Kyle Larson, who got absolutely slammed no lube by Ryan Preece in the passenger door.
Real bad lick.
Yeah, and it basically mangled the whole entire roll cage on the right side of the car. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be looking at that car in the R&D center. Michael McDowell was also involved in that wreck. But in the end, Kyle Busch, he probably was in a position to win the Daytona 500, won it under the rules of he was leading at lap 200, but in this case, he benefited from the best friends racing each other hard, and he gets his 62nd career Cup Series victory and puts himself solidly into the playoff. It wasn't like he wasn't going to make the playoff, but now I think he doesn't really have to worry about much anything. He moves up to 5th in points overall. He's 5 points behind Kyle Larson in terms of the playoff standings. So Christopher Bell continues to lead the points by 12 over Chastain, 20 over Kevin Harvick. So Josh, Kyle Busch getting a plate win, not something we're used to in general for him, for as prolific of a winner as he may be. He's never really been a fan of these type of races, especially while he was driving for Toyota. He had a serious injury at Daytona. But in this case, he had a really good race car and was able to sneak right through when it counted and get that second victory of 2023.
Yeah, Kyle Busch, he was able to basically win by default there at the end after Bubba Wallace and Ryan Blaney fought for the lead. And Bubba, I think he made one too many blocks there. I think he really only afforded 1 or 2 at most blocks, and he tried 3 times and ended up in the wall there. So sorry. It's interesting, with Kyle Busch, going to going to Richard Childress winning at Talladega. Remember when he went to Joe Gibbs? He also won at Talladega. So interesting that each time that he's changed teams, he won at Talladega here. Obviously ran well at the Daytona 500 and probably should have won that race as well. And of course, obviously, we talked our picks and everything, and I picked him to win, and that was my reasoning, based on how he was at the end of the Daytona 500, and really there, I mean, it wasn't looking good until about 5 laps to go. I thought, because in the middle of the race he was up towards the lead and thought he might stay there, but then was kind of mired back in the bottom half of the top 10 in the bottom lane with no real room to go until the last couple of laps that they had a caution there. So with at lap 185 with a couple of laps to go there, having a caution, really, really interesting, like how that ended up playing out. Obviously, he kind of sent Kyle Larson there in the jam up after Noah Gragson and Ross Chastain got into it. So that netted him a couple of spots there, obviously, and afforded the opportunity. And then, of course, made the decision to not pit. They're really close on fuel. And they made the decision to stay out, or what he did, and stay on track, keep the track position rather than coming in for gas. And obviously that ended up being the right move there with how the last lap played out. So the race itself, for the most part, until basically the very end, it was fairly clean. No real incidents that occurred. Obviously, you saw your guy Chase Briscoe, the algo pick, spun out on pit road. Tyler Reddick also spun out on pit road as well during that set of green flag stops. So definitely some interesting things happening there with those two incidents trying to get onto pit road. But mostly clean. A lot of aggressive racing. You saw, especially towards the end of the stages, even in the middle portions of it, guys were fighting for position. You saw a lot of bump drafting up front to try to push a guy into the lead. So that's definitely kind of what we come to expect here at Talladega. Obviously, with this style of racing of this new car, obviously races very differently from on the super speedways compared to the old car. Bringing back to what I said earlier with Bubba Wallace blocking and everything, and at the end try to protect his position to win the race. And obviously with these cars, you get a huge run with going up front, and you or only because of that you're only afforded really 1 or 2 blocks at most. And once you block a third time, you've slowed yourself enough where it's just really impossible to stop the guy from passing you there. So tough deal, for guys like Bubba Wallace trying to win. Ryan Blaney as well, who hasn't won since 2021. So, he's obviously going on a 55 race winless streak there. So, and he led the most laps as well. So it's a missed opportunity for both those drivers. Kyle Larson, of course, and we'll probably talk about it in a minute, but obviously the roll cage was breached there. So the drivers area, they have found a bug in the system, if you will, which obviously a bad thing like that to happen, but obviously now they found an opportunity to improve safety wise there. So they'll investigate and figure out where to make all the necessary changes there. So it's typical Talladega racing. At least it wasn't a total wreck fest throughout the entire race. At least we got a good amount of it out of the way, the race, lap wise out of the way until the end, and then they decided to start wrecking. So, it is what it is, but at the end of the day, that's what Talladega is.
Most of the race was processional, 2 lines. The inability to make a third line work was a story that was kind of pounded into the ground throughout the race, but there were moments and there were times where that third lane did work, and it kind of dictated some of the passes for the lead. It's how Bubba got the lead late in the race. through running and getting into the third lane, getting the right run and swinging over. Recently they've been picking up their pace. The 23 car, they had a struggle to start the year, but now they're running better, which is a good sign for them. The 45, of course, you have Tyler Reddick. He's sixth in points. And when you're coming off of a win the year before, and you've been fast in general, you'd be thinking that he would be up there with him. But unfortunately, so far in 2023, it hasn't really worked out that way for the 23 car. But the run itself, the way that Bubba looked in the race, he looked like a contender again, which is nice to see. As long as, obviously there are plenty of people who don't like that, but for those people, they can go suck a dick. So in terms of that, he's running better. Three straight top 5 finishes for Chase Briscoe after what was a nightmarish start to the year as well. That's interesting how that's all worked out for him. I'm trying to look through here. I can probably go on J-Ski and see what the playoff standings are right now. Briscoe and Buescher, who swapped spots after the race ended, are 15th and 16th in points right now, right? 7 winners, nothing changed with that because Kyle Busch added his name as a 2-time winner so far this year. Chastain leads overall in the points by, Chastain is second in points to Christopher Bell, who's leading overall by 12. So that's the mix right now in the point standings. For the race itself, it was pretty tame for the most part, outside of the incidents Josh mentioned in the first pit stop sequence, which was whether a combination of too much rear brake, maybe coming in too hot, et cetera, et cetera. Smoke mentioned it, Boyer mentioned it on the telecast. But at least in both cases, especially for Chase Briscoe, he was able to. It took a while for him to get his lap back, but he finally did, and it was on the caution on lap 147. He finally got, or 143, where he finally got his lap back. That was a one which involved I'm trying to think of who triggered that particular incident. I think it was Zane Smith and Austin Dillon. And then Harrison Burton. No, Harrison Burton triggered the thing, but then the 38 and the 3 were knocked out. The 42 was able to get through. The 62 sustained damage and lost time, but was able to get their lap back in the final next last yellow of the race. And then from there, Briscoe went from the 30s up to his eventual position of 4th at the end. It was a day where, I think for Stewart Haas and the Fords, there was a lot of consternation with the Ford camp, with Brad Keselowski and the drafting and all that. But the Stewart Haas cars were fast, all of them, but none of them really had a lot. They really didn't have a lot to show for it. Penske cars also were fast, and of course Blaney left to wonder yet again in another race, while Logano went a lap down because of a speeding penalty, got it back, then got destroyed. And then Cindric, who they showed the longest winless streak since after winning on a restrictor plate track, and of course his one win is the Daytona 500 last year. He ran pretty well, but nothing to show for it. Keebler Gibbs also. Both rookie drivers in the class this year have had not much to write home about. Keebler's been better by default, but both of them are running up front late in the race in an opportunity scenario where if they win, they get into the playoffs. Instead, they weren't able to. Both of them end up destroyed. But something to look at as they go back to Atlanta later this year and Daytona to end the regular season. Mention the points. Right now, Bell leads overall by 12, and 20 over Kevin Harvick. Then, as it stands, 3 two-time winners: Larson, Busch, Byron. Then you have the one race winners: Bell, Reddick, Logano, and Stenhouse. Ross Chastain, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex make up your top 10. Blaney, Bowman, Hamlin, Keselowski, Briscoe, and Buescher round out your 16. As it's Buescher's 11 points ahead of Daniel Suarez, and is that 27 points ahead of Cindric, McDowell, who a lot of people picked, including me, in terms of some of the pools or some of the fantasy games, basically being out of it 3 laps into a 500-mile race at Talladega. That had to be a freaking nightmare for him in the 34 car in general. He lost some ground now. He is 129 points out overall, but he is 38 points out of the cutoff, and 41 points out of the cutoff is Keebler Gibbs in 20th. So let's move on to the Xfinity Series at Talladega, which definitely there was a lot of action in that one. A lot of destruction in that race. And so that's something we'll get into. The Ag Pro 300 saw Jeb Burton get his second career win in the series and first for Jordan Anderson Racing. Won a stage in the process, too. So great job by him. Justin Allgaier won the first stage, and then stuff happened to him. A lot of wrecked vehicles. I'm trying to go through this list. There's, 19 cars running at the end of the race. So half the field was eliminated by the end or near the end of this race. Jeb Burton with the win over Sheldon Creed, Parker Kligerman from tailback, Cole Custer, Brennan Poole driving for JD Motorsports finished 5th, Cesar Baccarella, of course, driving for himself, Alpha Prime finishes 6th. The Algo pick, Parker Retzlaff. I mean, I guess you can say that you picked the right team, and Retzlaff actually was up there. He qualified well and led laps, but we just picked the wrong driver from Jordan Anderson Racing. But a good performance for that organization to get 2 cars in the top 10. Gray Galding with a top 10 finish for SS Greenlight. Joey Gase, a rare top 10 finish for him. And then Josh Williams finished 10th. Some of the other people that stood out, there was a lot of parity in this race. I think, Brett Moffitt led the most laps at 20, and then you had Sieg with 18, Jeb Burton 17, Hemrick with 15, and Austin Hill, who started on pole, with 14 laps led, and by far had the fastest race car. Once pit stop sequences happened and he lost some track position, he was still able to kind of get back up there, but I think he was biding his time, but time ran out for him, and in the end, it's probably better for the show that he got wrecked, because if he wins another race, it's probably going to become really boring, this Xfinity Series. So Jeb Burton gets the win. Creed still looking for that elusive first Xfinity victory. Some guys that you definitely wouldn't see in the top 10 or top 15 or 20 for that matter, just by lasting till the end, was what this race was about. I mean, you can't take anything away from the guys who just basically ran tailback and tried to stay out of everything, because when you see how many cars, half the field was destroyed, Josh, in the end, that was probably the right strategy, and will be the same strategy, I would think, for the men and women who drive in the trucks and Xfinity. And to be fair, I think in the Cup Series, it did work too, to a point.
No, yeah, I mean, I think running in the back, I mean, it probably won't win you the race, right? But if you want to get out of there and survive with a clean car and just net a potential top 10 or top 15 finish, I mean, go right ahead. That's how it's a respectable strategy for those who don't want to engage in the racing at Talladega. So can't really fault them for doing that, especially it works out for maybe some of the underfunded teams who can't afford to junk a car, right? So that's how it goes sometimes. But I mean, this race I think was probably just as aggressive, if not more aggressive, than the more than the cup race, in my opinion. I think obviously the cup race went back and didn't do anything until the end, right? But this one, there was a lot of stuff that happened throughout the race, and I mean, you saw, especially towards the end of the stages. I mean, like I said in the cup race, but especially in this race, you could tell people were making moves, and it was more aggressive than the cup race, I think, because cup race, is just two lines shifting back and forth mostly, but this one, guys were changing lanes, going to the whichever one had the best run, taking whichever run that they could get. You saw Josh Berry making moves throughout, the end of stage 2 there. Jeb Burton made a lot of aggressive moves, especially Austin Hill, who, of course, his win streak on super speedway racing ended at this race, and he was aggressive throughout his time up there in the lead. Chandler Smith had some moments. Ryan Sieg was up there. So there's a lot of guys that were up there fighting for the lead. Ryan Truex led laps as well. So there was definitely a lot of moves that that happened in this race. Of course, a lot of accidents as well that happened in this race, and you saw Blaine Perkins get upside down. And the car, fell apart, obviously, which is interesting because you saw a tire flying, through the air. Kaz Gralla ran into it as well. So that's something that we haven't really seen, a tire just straight up fly away in the middle of a flip. It's supposed to be tethered on, I believe. Go back to 2003, Ryan Newman's accident in the Aaron's 499 there at the beginning of that one. A tire flying off the car, or off of his car. So maybe something that they want to look at, but otherwise the car did its job. But of course, the other part of that accident, the 66 Dexter Stacy spinning out and hitting the entrance, where the safety crews are kind of lined up on the other side, so kind of hit where the wall kind of sticks out at the end right there on the back stretch. So really tough impact there, kind of similar in a way to Jeff Gordon's crash many years ago in Las Vegas, but of course driver's door impact there. So we saw, I think, maybe another crash or two that had an impact like that. So definitely something to look out for these guys next time. I mean, it's a pretty aggressive event, where drivers, especially in this series, trying to make a name for themselves. Hemrick, who seems like hasn't really had very many opportunities to win really in his career, and made a wrong move by blocking and doing his best Tony Stewart there from 2012, and taking himself out and going on his lid there. So that's how Talladega is in the Xfinity series, and definitely a lot of things that happened in this race. Of course, the junior motorsports cars, they performed. They all got taken out in one accident towards the end, and then Sam Mayer was already in a crash as well. So Brandon Jones was also in a crash as well. So just a lot that happened there, and they didn't throw away the race like they did last time, but still ended up with a bad result there. So I mean, it just shows you how, especially in this series, how Talladega can be a dumpster fire in terms of burning away money. Obviously, they burn away a lot of money by competing in this event. Yard sailing the field, like you said earlier, and just a lot of crashes that cost these teams and these owners a lot of money and everything. So of course, Parker Retzlaff algorithm pick, he had a lot of damage as well, and managed to come back and finish in 7th, taking advantage of some of the wrecks that happened there towards the end to kind of pick up some positions via kind of the attrition of the race. Cole Custer was up there as well. Thought maybe Parker Kligerman or Sheldon Creed could have challenged Jeb Burton there, but they really couldn't stay hooked up together, and Jeb Burton just had enough momentum to stay in front of them throughout the entirety of that last lap. So, yeah, I mean, this typical Talladega racing, but this one definitely had its wildest moment, just like in the Cup Series the next day. So, typical Talladega Xfinity racing for sure.
Yeah, and it's kind of a combination of, lack of experience or lack of judgment. But, they race 6 races a year at these type of tracks, and this is what brings these people out to go and watch. You want to go and see lots of destruction. So I guess they got what they wanted. Tony famously had a nice little presser in the garage area talking about how they needed to keep on wrecking. And I think the ideas he had in that particular rant years ago probably would still work today and might be better than what they have as a current product. So we'll see about that. But we'll change gears here, actually, on the day where we're able to renew fantasy football teams or fantasy football league. I was able to bring back the FallBrawl League for yet another year. So we're looking forward to that. Josh, of course, will be back trying to get a championship, has been in the mix every single year you've been in the league. And for me, the elusive, the long wait to get number 6 has been, it's getting to be pretty bad for me. I have been waiting a long time, and I want to go and get another championship in my league. So hopefully one of these days that'll happen. But with guys like Josh who are really tough competitors, it makes it even harder to win. So got to give the guys credit. Of course, Wilson, the defending champion, now I think a 3-time winner of the league. So we have that going on. And then all-time, yes, Wilson's a 3-time winner of the league. Joe's a 2-time winner. Vic's a 2-time winner. And I've won 5. I've been on the drive for 6 for a long time. I've finished, since I won my last championship, I've finished second 3 times, which is really depressing. But considering the last 3 years before that, I finished 5th. I guess I should take finishing second. We'll see what happens with the league and who else will be in it. For sure, as we go along, we'll update you here on the GSP. But Josh, you got things to look at for the NFL draft this coming week. On Thursday, you do have a first-round draft pick, so that'll be something to look at and what they're going to be, what the Jags are thinking and what the Jags are going to do. What are you looking at, or what are you feeling as it stands with Jacksonville, since they're going to be, I'm just scrolling through here.
And we're 24th.
Yeah, number 24 overall. I mean, it's kind of open. You kind of have an opportunity to take best available players, since you have a lot of young talent on both sides of the ball. I think your best draft pick is really getting Calvin Ridley back, because he's a number 1 wide receiver in this league. One of the best wide receivers prior to his suspension. Now he's had a year off, and he's going to be rested, and he gets to play with one of the best young quarterbacks in the game. I think that would be better than any other draft pick you make this year. But picking at 24, what are you looking at, or what do you feel like are needs to be addressed by your Jaguars to continue domination in the AFC South?
Well, I mean, this draft is going to be really important. One, because it's the follow-up to their playoff run this past season. 2, the previous times they made the playoffs, 2017, 2007, they followed those up with either a bad draft or okay draft where they failed to improve accordingly, according to their needs. So this one is important for them to be able to build upon what they did this past season. And obviously, free agency, they added Calvin Ridley, which is a huge get there on offense. But defensively, and some other pieces on offense, of course, offensive line, defensive line, lost talent in Arden Key and Jawan Taylor. So those are 2 important players that they had on the roster last year that are not here anymore, and they're going to have to either look to replace them or promote from within there. So from that perspective, it's pretty important to get a good draft, especially free agency. They weren't really able to make any significant moves on that end. So for that, I mean, defensively, I think probably the biggest need that they have is either defensive end or cornerback, and probably I think cornerback in the first round at least, probably where they're going to go. If you look at the talent at 24, I think defensive back probably makes the most sense. There's talk of Brian Branch, defensive back from Alabama, Keely Ringo, one of the cornerbacks from Georgia, which might pair well with a teammate from college at Georgia, Tyson Campbell, is now on the Jaguars. So that's going to be something to look at. Of course, they got rid of what's his name from who used to be on the Seahawks, and his twin brother has the hand thing.
Griffin.
Yeah, Shaq Griffin. Sorry,
Shaq Griffin.
Yeah. So Shaq Griffin, and of course I forgot about him completely because he was forgettable this past season on the Jaguars. Obviously, only playing like 1 or 2 games at the beginning of the season, then being out for the rest of the year. Now I remember from a back injury, of course, but. Obviously he's been released. They have Darius Williams on the roster, who's in his 30s, so he's kind of getting old there and fits well on the outside. But they need somebody on the inside who can do well or perform on the outside just as well. So they need cornerback, and that was obviously a look at some of their breakdowns that they had in the games that they had, the 5-game winning streak that they had. Cornerback was very leaky in some of those games. So on the outside, because it was easy to target, because obviously one side was locked down, the other side was pretty open for the quarterback. So I think corner is the way to go first round, and then potentially defensive line or offensive line in the third round and second round. Of course, tight end is also could be a need there. Evan Ingram, of course, on the franchise tag, but he's yet to sign it. So there's obviously could go there as well, which they need depth because behind Evan Ingram there isn't much. But of course, if he's not signing his tender and they end up not coming to a deal, then that's going to leave a major hole on the roster as far as tight end goes. And so hopefully, they're able to sign him to a longer term deal rather than just playing on the franchise tag there. So we'll see how this goes. Of course, it's going to be a important draft for Trent Baalke as well. Of course, him from your fandom in San Francisco and hasn't been the best of drafters. And of course, got pretty fortunate the past 2 drafts for Jacksonville's draft. But of course, this draft upcoming, very important to get right and add the necessary pieces to potentially go on a deeper playoff run or a potential Super Bowl run for Jacksonville. So we'll see if that's in the cards this year. So that'll be looking out for me for what I'm looking for on the Jags side. As a Gators fan, being an alumni of University of Florida, really looking at where Anthony Richardson is going to go. Obviously, he's been a lot of talk of which team would pick him up in the draft. And where his potential fit would be, and if he's even viable long term as a quarterback in the NFL with his playing style and his athleticism, and not really sure yet where he would go. Probably to a team that can afford to draft him and allow him to kind of grow into his position as a dual threat quarterback who has a lot of potential, but also has been wildly inconsistent. Going from really bad stat lines, completing only a handful of passes and a bunch of incompletions to in other games where he looks like a legitimate NFL talent on the field. So that's going to be where I'm looking at as far as my team and my school. So definitely be looking out for that on the draft course Thursday night. Jags are not picking first, which, kind of a good thing. Kind of glad that they're not picking first again, because obviously it means the previous season was very successful, which it was. So, bit of different feeling picking in the mid round, but at least won't have to be worried to turn it on at 8 o'clock or whenever it turns on to tune into the Jags pick, and can just kind of chill until probably about, I'm gonna predict probably 9:30 or 10 p.m. is when they'll have their pick in at 24. So just have to tune in a little bit later for whenever they pick, and we'll see maybe if they'll make any trades back or trades up. We'll see, but should be interesting on Thursday night, especially with some of these quarterbacks that are coming out and everything, and especially with all the available talent that's in this draft.
Yeah, one of the teams that you probably would want to tune in early for is the Indianapolis Colts. Chris Ballard having with one of the greatest press conferences in recent memory, with how honest he was with this whole draft process. And they're in the market for a quarterback. It sounds like the Houston Texans are not going to take a quarterback at 2 overall as of Monday, the 24th. We'll talk about it on May 1st, Monday, May 1st, after I'm done with my Pro-Am with the pros at the PBA Players Championship at Carolier. So I'll be kind of hyped up about that. And we'll see if Houston actually was putting up a smoke screen this whole entire time and decide to go get the quarterback, or if they're going to go and try to find the powerhouse defensive end for D'Amico Ryans, the new head coach, a la trying to follow in the footsteps of getting Nick Bosa when he was a part of the 49ers, the coaching staff with Mr. Clean as the defensive coordinator. So we'll see if they do that with Will Anderson or that Texas Tech guy, Tyree Wilson. The 49ers don't pick until pick 99, so they won't be picking until in the middle of Friday night, unless some things change. A lot of things, depth positions to go and make sure they solidify offensive line, defensive line. Well, you say, how the heck can you go and why do you need to go and do that? Well, it's the 49ers. You always want to give yourself extra depth on the interior, and that's where they built this team. They need to just keep on building. Some of these guys, you see how many guys left in free agency. So getting these depth players, they could go and step in year 2 and maybe make some contributions through special teams and other areas in year 1. Offensive line, though, I think is a big one, being the right side of the offensive line, especially McGlinchey leaving for a ridiculous contract, which I think is a net positive anyways because he sucks at pass protection. So I think they're going to have some adjustments there on the right side. You also have to look at the center position. And at some point, you're going to have to replace Trent Williams, who is the best offensive lineman in the game and one of the best offensive linemen ever. So that's something to look at. Cornerback, secondary has been a point of contention for many years with the 49ers, so they'll emphasize that area. You'll probably see them go and look at linebacker. They do have great linebacker duo in Warner and why am I spazzing out now? Greenlaw, Warner and Greenlaw, but then they have other that you need to add to that. Offense, trying to find tight ends, fullbacks, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk. If something, God forbid something goes down, they need to have depth to replace those key players. I'm pretty certain that it's Kyle Shanahan, so he'll go and draft yet another running back because that's just what the Shanahan family does. They just draft running backs in the late rounds. Quarterback is more or less set, even though we don't really know who's going to be starting. A wide receiver might be in play because they're going to have to make a big decision in regards to Brandon Ayuk and giving him a contract and then paying Debo what they're paying him, amongst others. So we'll see what they do. The Niners do have draft capital in days 2 and 3 to go and make some moves and and get some good players that could help in what they're hoping to be a run to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas this coming February or next February. I was going through the draft stuff over here just out of curiosity on NFL Network, but we'll definitely give you an update next week on the Grip Strip podcast to see how our teams did after the annual NFL selection meeting. The roundup, we're going to go and try something new here for the sake of interest in keeping the show tighter. Sebastian Ogier, yeah. So Sebastian Ogier is still in the lead of the points, but he is tied now with the winner of Rally Croatia, Efren Evans, the Toyota driver, gets the victory. It's a tarmac rally, so a big deal for him to go and get that. Efren Evans goes and ties up the point standings. He wins the rally by 27 seconds over Ott Tanak and 58.6 over Esa-Pekka Lappi. So all three manufacturers were represented in the top three. Sebastian Ogier finished fifth behind defending world champion Kalle Rovanperä. Toyota's made up four of the top six places. The Ford of Pierre-Louis Loubet finished seventh. Issues for some of the other cars in the Rally 1 category. To go and scroll down, some of them that did not finish. So their next race will be Rally Portugal in the second week of May. The next race we'll go and look at is the Formula E Berlin E-Prix, and that was saw some different names, different people getting up there in the front. Let me go and bring this up because I've got too many tabs open. That might help. I'll bring that up over here. All right. So the winner, there's the race calendar. Let's go back. Berlin. The results on the Saturday round of the Berlin E-Prix sees Mitch Evans get the win over his teammate Sam Bird. Jaguar 1-2, and the Maserati of Maximilian Gunther finished third. Sebastian Buemi started on pole, finished fourth in front of his teammate Nick Cassidy. Points leader Pascal Wehrlein came from 15th to finish sixth. And then you got Andre Lauderer got the fastest lap, his Porsche teammate, who finished eighth. In round 8, saw Nick Cassidy get the victory over Jake Dennis and Jean-Eric Verne. Mitch Evans, Antonio Felix da Costa round out the top 5. Maximilian Gunther got the fastest lap in the race. Wehrlein 7th. The pole sitter was Robin Freins for Abt Cupra, which is a big deal for them, the way their season has been. But nothing to show for it, finishing in 17th place. We'll get into the standings briefly. Wehrlein leads now by 4 points over Nick Cassidy. Verne is 19 points back. Jake Dennis 20 points back. Evans is 20 points behind Nick Cassidy. So the battle now for the world championship is getting a little closer. It's a 2-horse race right now, but it's tightening up a bit. So that's good news for the series as they move to their Monaco. Yeah, it is Monaco here in a couple of weeks' time before they take another break. The World Superbikes were at Assen this past weekend, one of the great motorcycle circuits in the world. So Alvaro Bautista goes and gets both wins on the Sunday race, both the Super Pole race and race 2. In the Super Pole race, he wins over Johnny Ray and Toprak Raskat-Lioku. Garrett Gerloff was buried in 17th in the qualifying race, Super Pole race, and then in the race 2 itself, Garrett Gerloff finished 12th on his BMW. Bautista, Raskat-Lioku, and Andrea Locatelli were the top 3. Going through just to check, the Johnny Ray was not classified, so unfortunate. Big loss of points there for him. Michael Vandermark broke his leg, so that's in the second race, so that's pretty bad. Unfortunate for the teammate of I don't know if he's Loris Baz's teammate. I think he is Loris Baz's teammate. Or no, he's the teammate of Scott Redding, and Loris Baz is the teammate of Garrett Gerloff. In race 1, just to go back, Bautista got the victory on Saturday over Johnny Ray and Toprak Raskadlioku. Garrett Gerloff finishing 12th again. Didn't have a great time qualifying in general. The points, as we go on right now, Alvaro Bautista is 56 points ahead of Toprak Raskadlioku and 70 over Locatelli. Axel Bassani is in 4th, and Johnny Ray is over 100 points behind in 5th. A big gap that he's going to have to close now, just 3 rounds into the championship, so that's brutal. Garrett Gerloff is in 15th in points, 7 points behind Philip O'Tilly, whatever, and Iker Lackawanna, he's 10 points behind him. Pretty close to where he could go and make up a few spots if he can have a decent round and maybe get back into the top 10. And we'll look at that as we go along. Their next race will be in a couple weeks' time at Barcelona. So that'll be their situation. Can Alvaro Bautista continue the domination in his quest to repeat as World Superbike champion? We will see. 6 hours of Spa for the World Endurance Championship. One difference that will be going on there in the World Endurance Championship this coming weekend is we're going to see a second Cadillac in the race. So both Cadillacs from Ganassi Racing will be racing in the 6 hours of Spa as a preview of what they'll be doing at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Points leaders, of course, the Toyota of Buemi, Hartley, and Hirakawa, Luban and Philip Hansen in LMP2, and then Ben Keating, Nicky Kasperg, and Verone in LMGTM, Northwest AMR Harder Racing. Yeah, because Paul Dalla retired from racing yesterday or a couple days ago. Interesting to see and hear, but look at that paint scheme. That's pretty badass for Peugeot. Maybe it'll make our cargo last longer. I'm going to get into the Total Energy 6 hours of Spa, the final race prior to the 24 Hours of Le Mans. The participants, as I mentioned, the 2 which has been in the series so far, number 3, which will be Sebastian Bourdais, Renger van de Zande, the 2 drivers in IMSA, and Jack Aiken will be joining them in the number 3 car. And then you have all the other Porsches, the Toyotas. Then we'll get in the LMP2s, basically the same field as we've seen so far. United Autosport leading in the number 22 car. There will be a difference, as I mentioned, with Paul Dalla retiring. There will be a different Aston Martin. Also, forgot that the hypercar Hertz Team Joda will be running their Porsche 963 for the first time with Antonio Felix da Costa, Will Stevens, and Ye Yafei. So that'll be interesting. Their first run with the 963, which here over the last few weeks has started to find some success. One at Long Beach in the IMSA category, in the IMSA series. And then trying to go through. There's the 2 Peugeots, the Protons. The Northwest AMR team is going to be the Harder Racing with Ian James, Mancinelli, and Alex Riberos. And then you have the Glickenhaus hypercar, and et cetera, et cetera. We'll go over that and see who makes it through. The 6 hours probably will be another Toyota win, but stranger things have happened. Maybe Ferrari can show up. They had a good run at the last race. MotoGP will be at Jerez, MotoGP Moto2. The points as of right now, leading into this next race, Riders Championship after the race. There you go. Marco Bezzecchi leads by 11 over Pecco Bagnaia. Alex Rins, after winning the U.S. Grand Prix, is 17 points behind in third. Maverick Vinales and Johan Zarco are your top five. And then in Moto 2, Tony Arbolino leads by 7 over Pedro Acosta, 20 over Aaron Canet. Felipe Salic and Alonso Lopez round out the top 5 in that category. We'll get into NHRA 4-wide nationals, just kind of hit the points. Matt Hagan, of course, leading the funny car points, has had a great start to the season. Antron Brown won at Vegas in 4-wide couple weeks ago. I mentioned Matt Hagan winning. Forrest Wilkerson, Chad Green made that final. Dallas Glenn continues to show his strength this year. Point standings in Top Fuel. Steve Torrence actually leading the points by 13 over Justin Ashley, 36 over Brittany Forrest, 49 in a tie with Antron Brown and Mike Salinas. That's the Top Fuel standings. In Funny Car, Matt Hagan leads by 105 points over defending champion Ron Capps, Alexis DeJoria, Chad Green, and Robert Height. Round out the top 5. In Pro Stock, Dallas Glenn leads by 51 points over Troy Coughlin Jr. Matt Harford is in third, Camry Caruso fourth, and Aaron Stanfield rounding out the top 5. Currently, Eric Enders, the defending champion, is 12th, multi-time champion, 12th. So interesting to see that. With this 4-wide national event at Charlotte, you'll see the Pro Stock motorcycles back. Pro Mods will also be there, and Factory Stock and Top Alcohol Dragster. So Tony Stewart will be looking to repeat in 4-wide by winning both of them here in the span of a couple of weeks. We'll see if he can do that in Top Alcohol Dragster. Full amount of classes going on there at Charlotte ZMAX Dragway prior to taking a few weeks off prior to the Route 66 NHRA Nationals, just in the middle of May. The Supercars will be at Wanneroo. Talking about Supercars, Shane Van Gisbergen is looking at NASCAR, of course, because why wouldn't he, with all the road courses that they have in the Cup Series? It probably makes a lot of sense. Trying to go and see what some of the... Is that for real? Oh, Toyota forklifts on a Chevy. Okay, that's something. Mark Winterbottom will run number 600 this weekend at Perth, the Perth Super Sprint, and number 600 on a Chevy Camaro, SVG, Wanneroo, and then we'll see what's going on with that. The championship points leading into this weekend's event, Brody Kostecki leading by 32 points over Chaz Mostert, Van Gisbergen in third, 86 points back. Andre Heimgardner and Will Brown round out the top 5. Both Coca-Cola Racing Chevys are in the top 5. Cam Waters, Feeney, Reynolds, LeBrock, Fullwood, DJR, Dick Johnson Racing, Shell V-Power Racing trying to recover after a slow start to their season. Indy next will be at Barber. Trying to see if there really is anything, information in regards to that. The points, the results coming off of the race at St. Pete, that was Daniel Frost was the winner over Nolan Siegel and Jacob Abel. And so that was the only race so far this year. So there you go. The standings are as such. So Rasmussen, Hunter, McElray, 5th. Ernie Francis, got some of these other people. Rasmus Linden finished 9th. Kiffin Simpson, 10th. Jamie Chadwick in 13th, coming from W Series. 19 cars. Jagger Jones got involved in a crash with Enam Ahmed. So that'll that's something to see. Can Jagger Jones recover this coming weekend at Barber? Trying to go and see the schedule and go over here, see if they have anything. They haven't put up the spotter detail yet. So previous winners at Barber, Linus Lundqvist, the defending champion of the series, won twice in the last 3 races they run there. David Malukas, IndyCar driver. Prior to that, they hadn't run there since 2018, and a certain guy named Pato O'Ward swept in 2018 and 2017. Some kid named Colton Herta, might have heard of him, won. So amongst recent winners at the Barber Motorsports Park. And then Formula 2 will be at Baku, of course. They no Formula 3. Formula 2 will be at Baku with, and then they'll be running a sprint race along with Formula 1, so both series will be running sprints. 4th round of the calendar for them of their season. Owomu Iwasa leading the points by 8 over Teo Pocher. Frederick Vesti, Ralph Beauchamp, and Artur Leclerc round out the top 5. Jehan Deruvala, Hauger, Maloney, Kushmini, and Richard Vashore. There's only a separation of 8 points between 4th through 10th and 9 to 11th. So a lot of possibilities of points or position swapping here with being in the tight confines of Baku this coming weekend. Speaking of that, let's get into the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. There will be as I mentioned, a sprint. There will be you'll see some upgrades. The first real upgrades this season will be on the cars, but I have a hard time believing that much will change in regards to the results. It's a racetrack that Fish Lips has done pretty well at over the years, so I don't really think that that's going to change. Trying to see Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I'm going to go over here. Do that. Formula 1, Azerbaijan. Try to go through that. They've raced there 6 times. Red Bull and Mercedes are equal with 3 wins apiece. So interesting. Active drivers right now. The best average finish. I mean, they say Vettel's active. He's not. Sergio Perez actually has the best average finish at 5th. Lewis Hamilton's just behind him. Lando Norris, Valtteri Bottas, and Charles Leclerc. Lewis Hamilton has 5 top 5s and 6 starts at Baku, and the next closest person is Sergio Perez with 4. They both have 5 top 10s there at the street circuit. Max Verstappen, average start of 4.8, average finish of 10.8, coming off of winning last year. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, and 6 starts at that circuit. But I figure he's going to win again, and I think I'm just going to keep on picking him, even though Mercedes is going to come with the upgrades, and you'd figure Aston Martin probably did some massaging into their car, trying to get it in keep it in play. Ferrari trying to figure out what they have done wrong and maybe correct that. So we'll see what goes on with that. I figure Verstappen wins. I would say that I do feel like Mercedes will finish on the podium. I'll say Lewis finishes 2nd and Fernando Alonso finishes 3rd. Those are my choices for Baku. How about you, Josh?
Well, I mean, you said, Max Verstappen has been pretty successful at this circuit, but, on the other hand, he's only had 1 victory here at this, race. And, I mean, he's had a couple of incidents that played out wrongly for him. Go back to 2018 when he and Daniel Ricciardo got into it going into the first turn at this 2021 when he had the lead and had a blowout on the leading the race and lost because of that, and it was pretty high speed accident and everything. So of course last year won, and maybe we should probably lean more on that history from last year because of this new race car. But I feel like this circuit in general really just brings out the volatility, I guess, because of how tight the corners are at Baku in some areas, and because of just how long the racetrack is, on the main straight and whatnot. So a lot can happen in this race is really what I'm trying to say. And I think, I just think that maybe there's a chance that Verstappen doesn't win this race, but I'm still going to go Red Bull here, and I'm going to say that Sergio Perez picks up his second victory at the Baku City Circuit here. So I'm going to go a little bit different, just because why not? I'm going to say that things are going to be crazy here, and that maybe Verstappen actually doesn't win here this weekend. But podium wise, I'll say that Alonso gets a second, and then Verstappen, I'll say third. So we'll go a little bit different here, but just to go with it. But it's going to be interesting, with the upgrades. Obviously you mentioned Alpine. I mean, they've been 3 races. They've had a really good start to the season. Mercedes, they've had some upgrades, but is it enough for them to really be a true threat, to finish or even challenge Red Bull? And surprisingly, Alonso and or not Alpine, but I say Alpine, I'm confusing himself with last year, but with
Aston Martin.
Aston Martin, yeah, I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the chassis, and they all you have Alpine, Aston Martin, and McLaren, and Williams, and I don't know, but no, that's fine. Yeah, Aston Martin, of course, who Alonso. Surprisingly, they've been doing well so far this year, and Mercedes just don't know if they have enough to compete, consistently with them, and obviously Ferrari. They're not expecting their upgrades until Miami, so a couple of weeks away. So not sure how competitive they can be here this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at this track. And of course, you got some guys in the back. McLaren got their first victory this past weekend at Talladega with Kyle Busch. Oh wait, wrong McLaren. But of course, they have an interesting opportunity here with Lando and Oscar Piastri. They could get a potential points finish here this weekend. Could Williams, can they get steal a good points finish, or something could happen like that? But yeah, this is looking at the results from previous years. We've seen things happen. You've seen Lewis Hamilton have the lead, off of a coming to a final lap restart, 1-lap shootout, and spin out into turn 1. So even the best have their mistakes here at this Azerbaijan Grand Prix. So it could be interesting, and looking forward to seeing how it plays out.
Definitely a lot of opportunity for carnage, for red flags, for things that can alter strategies. A lot of speed, but then there's a lot of tight confines as well that make up this Baku City circuit. So not really. I give you credit for going with Checo. He is considered these days a street course master, so it may not be it's not out of the realm of possibility. He did benefit from fish lips blowing out his right rear tire a couple of years ago. So it probably isn't as crazy as some, making some other picks we probably could have done. So I will see what happens. We do say that Red Bull will be in play to win, and in your case, having both of them on the podium. So we'll see if you're right, or if going chalk like I am doing here with fish lips actually comes through. You'll get first dibs. I'll let you have first dibs on both Cup and XFinity here. We'll start with XFinity, the A Game 200 at Dover this coming Saturday. Just change here, go into the 40 cars for 38 spots. So 2 cars will go home. Things that are different. Weatherman will be driving in the O2 because Perkins is probably still beat up. Stephen Parsons will be in the 07. Trying to, what do you call it? Derek Kraus stays in the 10. Some sponsored adjustments. TMC will be on the 18 for Sammy Smith. What is it? Ollie's Bargain Outlet, it looks like, will be on the 07. Degree for Justin Allgaier. Jarrett Logistics for Josh Berry. Ryan Truex, who has come close to winning at Dover in a Gibbs car, has another opportunity. John Hunter, Acme, and Safeway. Corey Heim will be in the 24 for Sam Hunt. Kaz Gralla will be running the Island Coastal Lager Toyota. Same sponsors for both Burton and Retzlaff. Trying to see if they can make it 2 in a row somehow, some way. Brian Sieg running the A-Game sponsorship. That's one of their sponsors. Raja Karuth making another start in the number 45 for Alpha Prime. And let's see, Timmy Hill trying to make the race in the 66. Dawson Cram, former guest on the show, back in the 74 for Mike Harmon. Alfredo, got Chad Chastain driving the Drive Sober Arrive Alive Delaware number 91. And trying to see who else. And actually Carson Hocevar. Wow. Carson Hocevar with Bono Mannion as a crew chief, Aspire Motorsports, number 77. Interesting addition to the grid here. Possible. Probably going to have a decent vehicle. Hocevar is one of the more controversial figures in the truck series, coming off of a win at Texas a few weeks ago, trying to make Xfinity debut at Dover. Have to qualify on speed, of course. So if rain or any type of issues come up, which in the Northeast, as long as there's a race in the NASCAR race, it always seems to have a problem. But, it's no different than any other number of places with NASCAR these days. So, Josh, keep it, I'll open it up to you for your picks for the Dover Xfinity race. Well,
I'm looking at the history of this track and everything, and I'm going to go with Justin Allgaier winning this weekend. Junior Motorsports, they haven't won yet this year. They probably should have at some point, but they just haven't had the fortune of winning. And Justin Allgaier, he's won here at this track before, and he's had a lot of experience in this series. So I'm going to go with him winning this weekend. Of course, it's, hard to go against one of the veterans in this series. Who's been up there. Of course, it's been a interesting start to the season. John Hunter, Nemechek will probably be up there. Sammy Smith also, and Chandler Smith also will be up there, I think. So, but I'm going to go with Allgaier. Lead the charge for Junior Motorsports. Of course, wearing the Mom and Pop Still Junior shirt as well. So why not influence their for wild card? Go with I'm gonna go wild card here with it's tough to pick, but I'll go with Raja Karuth here this weekend. See how he does here in the Dover, which is a pretty rough racetrack, very high speed. I'm gonna go with him wild card. Like what he's done so far this year in trucks. He's performed fairly solid, so far to start the year. So, I'll go with Raja Karuth, who, of course, is a sim guy. So I'm sure he's probably getting a lot of practice this week leading up into it in the Xfinity car on iRacing.
And he also has experience there in the ARCA series, ARCA East, the whole bit. So he does have laps there. Been making progress in recent weeks, as you said, in the truck as well. So the Alpha Prime team usually does as much as they can, at least with the 45, to put it up front or put it in a position to contend. So those are good picks. I'm going to pick Josh Berry, not trying to be a homer as a fan pick. He's run 2 races at Dover, and he's won 1. And considering who else is in the field, I mean, there's only one other driver that's in the field. That's Cole Custer, who has won at Dover in an Xfinity car. So, Allgaier, yeah. So, I mean, I think Josh Berry gets the win. So both of us are hedging that Junior Motorsports will finally get a win this year. I think that'll be the first of many, though, for them. In terms of a wild card selection, I mean, this could be a stretch considering the, I guess, what you want to go and call. They don't have the points up. Look at that. That is lovely. They don't have it there either. That's even better. Go back there. Yeah, no. Good job, J-Ski, not having that. So now I'm going to go to Xfinity, go to here, detailed driver standings, and we will go through. I'm trying to see if where's his name? Where is he? Ryan Truex is actually 21st in points. He's only run 4 races and he's 21st in points. He's ahead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 drivers who've run every race, and Josh Williams, Gray Galding, and Blaine Perkins, who had run 8 of the 9 races. Of course, now Blaine Perkins is going to miss this race. So that's pretty interesting there, trying to get through that. 20, 23, 24, 25. So Jeb Burton doesn't count as a wild card because he won last week. But to be fair, he is a wild card at most other racetracks. I'm going to go for it anyways because he is a part-timer. Ryan Truex is my wild card pick. It's a family, one of the Truex family's 86 home tracks. It legitimately is.
It's his actual home track.
It is their actual home track. That's the closest one to Mayetta, New Jersey. He's won there in an East car years ago on his way to East Championships. His brother
won in 2012.
Exactly. He should have won. That's at least one. That's the one I can harken back to, but I feel like there might have been another one, but definitely 2012. He was driving for Gibbs and he should have won that race. Kind of like when Bubba was in the 6 car and he got moved over by Chris Buescher a few years after that. Truex in a Gibbs car at Dover. The Truex family has done really well there in general. I think it's an opportunity for them to go. It's an opportunity for him in limited starts to go get that elusive first victory in the Xfinity Series. We'll move on to Cup, Josh. The Worth 400 at Dover Speedway, in whatever Dover Motor Speedway as they call it now because it's an SMI track. And they'll be running on Sunday afternoon. 36 cars for, of course, 40 spots, so no issues with failing to qualify, any of that. Trying to see here any major adjustments. Brennan Poole, I'm not sure if he's ever made a Cup start, but it looks like if he hasn't, then he'll be making his Cup Series debut in the number 15 for Rick Ware, while J.J. Ailey runs the 51 car due to the probably indefinite suspension of Cody Ware. Cody Ware. Some of the sponsors and cars we will see, as I mentioned earlier, Daniel Suarez will be running a car with Pitbull's new album, the Trackhouse album, on there in conjunction with Freeway Insurance. So that'll be a cool car to see there. I refuse to mention what's on Keebler Gibbs's car. Icy Hot Pro will be on the 47 for Richard, and if you hit the wall there, that's probably a good thing to use. Tyler Reddick will be running the Ronald McDonald House car, and the regular, no, they don't have any sponsors at Legacy Motor Club, meaning the 43 will be on Allegiant colors, and Noah Gagson in the Sunseeker Resort. Brian Priest running Mohawk Northeast. Todd Gillen Speedy Cash. Michael McDowell A&W Root Beer. But of course that's a thing for Bob Jenkins owns those restaurants, has a bunch of franchises. Raptor back on the 24 for Byron. McDonald's on the 23 for Bubba Wallace. Harrison Burton running the Dex Imaging colors. Christopher Bell with Ream. Let's see, Wabash will be on the 12. I would think that after last week, they probably would have had Worth on again since it's a sponsors race. FedEx back on the 11 car. I say that since there was a while where he was running that that prescription pill. Lenovo will be on the 8 for Kyle Busch. Fraternal Order of Eagles on the 7 for Corey LaJoy. Wyndham Rewards for Brad Keselowski. Hunt Brothers Pizza and Realtree for Kevin Harvick. In his last start at Dover, which will be his 800th first start of his career. Get bioethanol on the 3 for Dylan. Menard's Great Stuff for Cindric, and Jockey for Ross Chastain. At Dover, when you look at this, I mean, over the years, I mentioned, of course, Truex, but you look at some of these other guys, Kyle Larson really does well at Dover. Chase Elliott has won there multiple times, and he needs that win. And there's a lot of guys I would think would be in the mix at Dover here this weekend, but what say you in regards to the Cup Series race this coming weekend, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, this race, I mean, it's hard to predict Dover. Of course, there isn't really any track like it, on the series right now. Maybe you could call it Bristol on steroids a little bit, even though, it's a little bit longer than Bristol, but nothing really like it. Hendrick has been, very dominant the last couple of years. They won in 2021, and then last year, Alex Bowman, Chase Elliott. But Bowman hasn't really been running up front so far this year, but he's just been, able to kind of knock off top tens. And Elliott, obviously, he's only been back 2 races, and all did win last year, but I just don't see him winning this race. So I'm going to go with William Byron winning here. I think he can win this race. Obviously, he's been probably the better of the Hendrick cars. Kyle Larson's also been up there, but I think I go with William Byron here. He's just this is a race where he can easily run up front and drive away from the field. And that's kind of how it's been in his 2 wins that he's had so far to start the year. So, I'll go with William Byron as the winner. Wild card here in this event. We'll go with Noah Gragson. How about that? We'll go wild card. After the race that he had this past weekend, of course, pretty bad accident at Talladega and everything, but could lead into something in this race, and it's been an interesting year for Legacy Motor Club, and definitely could have better results later on this year. So maybe Noah Gragson can get something done here at this racetrack this weekend. So we'll see what happens, but it should be interesting. With concrete surface, the first time we're running on a surface like that this year, and definitely with a lot of the elevation changes that you get on a lap-to-lap basis at Dover should be a challenge, especially with with the next gen car and the rear diffuser, and surviving the bumps in the concrete and mayhem that occurs at Dover.
Solid picks there. Going out there definitely on a wild card with Gagson for sure. But yeah, I would say that picking a Hendrick car is not a bad idea. I was compelled to pick Kyle Larson because he has, based on the last 10 races at Dover, he has the best average finish. His starting position is also ridiculous, just under 4th. 3.9 average start, 5.1 average finish in the last 8 races, 7 top 10s in those last 8 races. But I'm going to take a guy who's had 9 top 10s in the last 10 races at Dover. His name is Kevin Harvick. He gets his first win of his retirement tour here in his final, what will be the first racetrack that he's going to for the final time officially. Coda was the first one, I guess, or California, Coda, but because California doesn't exist anymore, won't exist anymore here soon enough. And Coda, he'll be going there, of course, as a broadcaster, but not as a driver. Kevin Harvick gets the victory at Dover. It's his kind of racetrack. It's a place where you have to kind of save equipment, but you have to push at times, being able to handle the traffic, et cetera, et cetera. My wild card selection, it's curious. I mean, do I go full? That's intriguing, actually. It's kind of an option there. You know what? I go Daniel Suarez. It's right on the edge. He literally is on the second half of the full-time drivers. There's 32 guys who've made every race start so far this year. He's 17th in points. Daniel Suarez is my wild card pick. He has 5 top 10s in his last 10 starts there, with 1 top 5 finish. Famously wrecked his now owner in an Xfinity race a few years ago. On his way to victory for Joe Gibbs Racing, he did wreck Justin Marks, who was driving the 42 for Ganassi at that time during that race. So interesting how that all comes full circle if he goes and wins his first Cup oval race by chance this coming weekend at Dover Motor Speedway. So yeah, those are my Harvick to win, Suarez wild card selection. So that leaves us with the IndyCars. The IndyCar Grand Prix of Alabama at Baba Motorsports Park. The usual suspects, 28 cars, 27 cars, will be running this weekend. I should go and take that. We'll go over here then, save myself the trouble, get into the standing, the IndyCar in over the years, trying to get that over there. So I'm going to go and get that in there. We'll also go and give you the point standings. There's also the 100 Days to Indy documentary series that's coming out this week, so that'll be something to look at for sure. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully figure out some way to see it. I won't be able to see it live, but when they debut it, but I'm hoping to see it and keep up with it as they run it out towards the Indianapolis 500. Marcus Ericsson retook the points lead after the last race at Long Beach, 15 points ahead of Pato O'Ward. Alex Palou third, Newgarden fourth. Kyle Kirkwood, coming off of his first career victory, is in fifth. Scott Dixon, Grosjean, Herta, Power, and McLaughlin round out the top 10. As we got over here, so 27 drivers who have run all three or won the first 3 races of the season. And not really surprising who the back 3 are, to be honest. But I'll go and start here for Barber, the Grand Prix of Alabama. I mean, Dixon's record at Barber is insane. And 12 races there, 12 does finish in top 10 every time, 10 top 5s. But interestingly enough, he has never won there, just like at St. Petersburg, never won there. It wasn't like he had the most pace at Long Beach and then he got run over by Pato O'Ward. So he's probably going to be a little angry. Might be the way for him to go and get first victory at Barber Motorsports Park, set himself up over this next month to possibly go and get another victory that has been eluding him for a while, which is the Indianapolis 500, a second Indianapolis 500 victory. So I'll pick Scott Dixon as the winner. And in terms of a wild card selection, trying to see here through some of these other guys that are around. Trying to go through there. I have to go through the points. I have to actually go and see, because if it's 27, I have to go after that. Do I go double? Do I do two Kiwis from the same team. That it kind of feels like I could do that. I think because I would have probably went Lundgaard, but there's 27, so he's on the top half. Man, I'm trying to see. There we go. Curious, really here. Pagano back in the day when he was driving for Penske was really good there, and so was Helio Castroneves. Doubt that that's going to be the case now. Reem Rehal would have been a good one too, but he's out of the realm too. Shoot. You know what? I'm not going to go with my original pick. I'm going to go with Pato. I didn't announce who I was thinking, so I'm going to go with Rinus VeeKay. Rinus VeeKay is a good choice. He's run well at Barber. Yes, the Ed Carpenter racing team is pretty terrible right now, but stranger things have happened. You can put a good qualifying session together. Right now, they're struggling. They're 22nd and 23rd in points. VeeKay and Connor Daly are tied. They're tied with Simon Pagano, actually. 22nd through 24th. They're a point behind Root Beer Floathead. So that was I probably went against my better judgment on that one, but I'm not here to make great picks. That's what Josh's job is, since he seems to win when he gambles. So if you really want, I've already put the disclaimer out there. Don't make picks based on anything I tell you. Probably if you want to bet on it, listen to Josh's picks more times than not. So with that, you get to close the pick segment here for the IndyCar Grand Prix of Alabama, a race where Joseph Newgarden has been dominant, essentially the second closest race to his home his home race prior to Nashville being included on the calendar. So he loves this racetrack. He's won there 3 times, Power twice, and then after that you have a bunch of guys who've won there once. What are you thinking this weekend for the race at Barber, Josh?
Well, you said right there. I think Joseph Newgarden comes out, wins this race this weekend. He's obviously had 3 wins here at this racetrack. He's done very, very well in his career here in the IndyCar Series, competing at Barber Motorsports Park. So, we'll go with Joseph Newgarden. Your pick there with Rinus. It's not all far out there because Joseph Newgarden did pick up his first win in the 2015 season, at this racetrack, first career win, winning at Barber. So, and his first career win ever. So, winning there back when it was CFH racing. Yeah. So, not all that far out there with Rinus, so possibly could happen, but they haven't been running that well as of late. So we'll see if it actually happens. But wild card, I'm going to go with Graham Rahal. He's also ran pretty well.
Actually, I have to call because it has to be under 14th because there's 27 full-time guys. I did qualify that. Graham Rahal is a great pick. If we were Graham Rahal and Christian Lundgaard would both be good choices, but because they're on the top half of the points based on the full-timers, unfortunately, they do not play into this in this case.
Good call there. Well, I was also thinking about Lundgaard too, but he's right on that line. So, yeah. Damn. And Rossi's in 15th, which
that actually he's in play. So
yeah, he is in play technically. But you know what? I'm gonna go with I will go with Felix Rosenqvist, the other McLaren guy, right? Who finished 7th at Long Beach, and he's been good at some road courses won all the way back in 2020 at Road America, and had a good run a few years ago at Mid-Ohio. So let's see if he can get. I feel like Barber is a very similar racetrack to those two. Mid-Ohio, it's probably more similar to Mid-Ohio than it is Road America, but it's still out there in that type of technique. So I'll go with Felix Rosenqvist this weekend as a wild card here to compete in the Grand Prix of Alabama.
Yeah, I was curious as to where you're going to go once we had to deviate off of those two Rahal guys. You went with Rosenqvist. I kind of thought you were going to go Rossi, but one person that my original wild card choice, and I put it in as a bonus pick, is Marcus Armstrong, driving the number 11 car, the fourth Ganassi car, the former Formula 2 driver, has shown good pace so far in his starts. And the Kiwi, probably a guy who's in line possibly one day, I don't know, 25 years from now when Scott Dixon finally does retire, maybe to take over that car. But Marcus Armstrong might be in play for the 10 car for all we know next year because, of course, Alex Palou is not going to be there. So Marcus Armstrong, somebody to look at, I think is a very good option this weekend at Barber. Of course, you have to put qualifying together. It's very hard to pass at Barber, and if you can qualify well, you can kind of dictate how things go unless the untimely caution or the danger zone happens to you. We'll see how all those choices come off next week on the GSP, but until then, we'll leave it up to the racing gods and whatever they want to see fit. Josh, more time talk about all things iRacing and gaming in the sim segment.
Yeah, of course. And this past week, obviously in Cup and XFinity side, it was Talladega. This past week, and that's kind of what I did the last couple of days. Last night, of course, late night ran and actually streamed, so it's on there. But ran fixed series, both XFinity and the Cup series and the next gen car. Finished the Cup race I ran last night. I actually ran into the back of somebody under caution because I was texting and didn't look at the screen. So I ran into the back of somebody under caution and dinged up the front end a little bit.
And drive.
Yep. Well, I thought I could get away with it under caution, and especially at Talladega where you're not really doing anything but under caution. But it got me there and dinged it a little bit, and maybe it would have been okay. But I felt like I needed to pit, and I thought the rules in the I guess in the Cup Series are if the pits are closed and you pit on a closed pit that you just have to go to the back of the field, because I think that's the rule in the 87 series, the 87 cars. I think that's the rule there, and I think in Indy cars that's the rule there. So two of the series I compete in a bunch, that's the rule, and I guess Cup is maybe a little bit different because when I did that, they're like, oh, they're gonna hold you for a while, and they gave me a 40-second penalty that I had to serve under green. So I took myself out there and made a mistake. So maybe a rare mistake by me because I actually don't really compete in the iRacing NASCAR Cup Series that often, and really only do it on the bigger tracks like Daytona, Talladega, and the road courses and Auto Club and everything. So I probably should compete this one a little bit more, but I don't know, I just have been. I guess it's not next gen car. Only races good on a handful of tracks, in my opinion. So that's kind of, I guess, why. But then I did Xfinity race on Sunday night, and that one was actually pretty entertaining because we went like nearly the entire race without having a caution, and then we ended up having two green white checkers at the end, or actually one late caution and then an extended green white checkered there. But this was really interesting because everybody was racing super aggressively, and you'll see it on the stream. Like we were going, 3 wide on lap 15. It was 30-lap race, so it's already halfway through. But we're all going 3 wide, driving over the top of each other. Only halfway into the race, essentially, and guys taking no quarter, going balls to the wall type of racing on the super speedway, taking it 3 wide up against the wall and trying to make something happen. Somebody behind me, I pushed the guy to the lead, and then we were in the middle, and then we got up to the lead in turn 3, and then the guy in front of me cut to the bottom when it was open to take the lead, and I followed him, but then I guess I drifted up slightly a little bit, and then the guy behind me got a run, and then I left just enough to leave a little bit of an opening, and this guy took it and then shuffled me to the back completely, and then later on tried to do the same thing again. Actually, I did it a couple times again, and then later on, he tried to do it again and going into the tri-oval, and I blocked him, and then we both went onto the apron, and it was not having it there because I felt like we're in line, stay in line, and let's try to make something happen instead of trying to play it every man for himself. And so I gave him a block, and then I think going into turn 1, I guess since I had slowed myself and everything, he was able to get back around me on the outside, and I kind of drifted up into the wall. Well, not into the wall, but kind of slowly kind of drifted up towards him and everything, and thought about maybe squeezing him there into the wall, but I didn't do it. So sometimes I get that was getting a little annoying there and everything. So that's definitely not like me, I guess, but it was a little bit annoying with how I felt like I was being raced and everything. So I was like, well, I'll give it right back to you there and everything. So that was pretty interesting. And then later on, we had the big one and couldn't avoid it, so I ended up finishing in 15th in that one. So it is what it is. We'll come back next time to Talladega and hopefully have a little bit better result on that one. Actually, I did compete the other night as well because I did a couple of races on Saturday night, did one on Wednesday night at Talladega, Thursday night or Saturday night one at Talladega, or Friday night I competed in the Cup Series and managed to finish in 5th and just took what I could get there and survived. So it was pretty interesting at Talladega, of course, and it's always about the same as what we see on TV. So I think it's getting harder to predict which one's which and everything. Are they imitating iRacing in real life, or is it iRacing imitating real life? Pick your poison there. So that's pretty much what I did this week on iRacing. Mostly just Talladega stuff, and then this week we'll try and do some other stuff. Of course, ARCA car at Homestead, so might try that one out. Of course, Homestead is one of my favorite tracks to race on, so we'll try to do that one there. Oval Series, let's see where else. We got the Dallara Dash at Phoenix Raceway, which should be interesting there. Of course, Cup Series and Xfinity Series this week at Dover Motor Speedway. You got, you got the open wheel. The Indy cars are at Pocono. Gen 4 is also at Dover, so matching with the Cup Series. You got the 87 cars at Nashville Super Speedway, which should be pretty interesting. Nashville is obviously another concrete track, but it's pretty tough, rough track compared to the other concrete tracks on the circuit, and really have to drive around on that track and everything, so it should be interesting. And you got the Cars Late Model Tour Martinsville, so that should be pretty close quarter racing there on the short track in Virginia. So plenty of stuff on the oval side. On the road course racing side, you've got Formula V at Lime Rock Park. You got Ferrari 488 GT3 at Oulton Park. You got the Formula Fords at the Knock Hill Racing Circuit. You got Porsche 911s at the 24 Hours of Le Mans circuit. Circuit do 24 hours of Le Mans. You got the Radical SR10 at the Daytona Speedway Road Course. Indy Pro 2000s at Watkins Glen. And you got the Toyota GR86 circuit Spa. I don't know how to, Francorchamps. So
Francorchamps.
Francorchamps. There you go. At Toyota, GR86. That's the car there. Got GT4 at Indianapolis Motor Speedway Road Course. Got Limerock Park in the rookie Formula Ford cars. Got USF 2000s at Watkins Glen. So pretty much just naming down everything on the list here. And you got Global MX5s also at the 24-hour Le Mans circuit. So plenty of variety go around here on iRacing this week throughout all the series. So there's plenty of opportunity to try out something, whether you're on the road or on the sim side of things. So should be interesting, and plenty of opportunities this week to be able to do that, and definitely we'll try to do some of it. Maybe try to do a little bit more road racing this week, probably, since I haven't really road raced in a bit, and haven't been able to do that. So we'll try to focus a little bit more on that, and maybe get back into the IndyCar, Pocono, or something like that, and everything. So yeah, that's pretty much it on iRacing this week. Of course, you want to see my stream, see kind of what I was talking about with Talladega, you can go on my stream site at Twitch TV/UCLR2 and go on there and look at my clips and everything, and see all my highlights and recap streams on there, and go in there and follow, and go in there for more content on there. Of course, Twitter at JP Huffline, which of course will be talking about the NFL draft this week, and talk about all the stuff that's going to happen there. Probably talk about Dover, probably talk about Baku and Birmingham, Barber Motorsports Park. So going to be a lot of opportunity to discuss motorsports and all other things sports and everything later in the week, of course. And then of course our YouTube channel, which will have this up, and see all our picks there. See everything that we've done so far this year, this season, everything last year. Go on YouTube and subscribe to our page there, Gripstrip Podcast. Go subscribe and comment on our page and our videos, and give us feedback, and help us continue to grow the page, grow the channel. So go on there, subscribe to our YouTube and everything. So yeah, that's it for me this week. Of course, always glad to be on here, give the picks, and give my analysis and everything, of course. So always glad to be able to discuss and break it down every week with you here, Phil. So yeah, thanks for everything, and yeah, I'll let you finish out the close for the show.
Absolutely. We're gonna go, and we have plenty to talk about next week. As you mentioned, we've got NASCAR, IndyCar, Formula One as the foundation. And then we'll get into plenty of other series as we go along this coming week. Wouldn't do it with anyone else. We have a good thing going here, 166 episodes. So I think it's working. You can find us, you can find the Gripstrip Podcast basically anywhere where you listen to podcasts. Josh, of course, mentioned the YouTube page. You can find us at Gripstrip Pod on Twitter. Find the show on Podbean and also philipgmatthew.com, amongst other places. You can go and support the show and subscribe, etc., and give us feedback. See who wants to, if you have ideas or have people that you'd want to hear on the show in upcoming episodes, please let us know. With that, we will be back next week. It'll be the 1st of May, so the year's going by. Now that racing season's well underway, we're moving. It's the 1st of May. We're going to be talking about all those series, as I mentioned, IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula One, review the NFL draft for our teams, and also in general, some of the surprises, some of the major picks and what those mean in the grand scheme of the NFL in 2023. Roundup will include, 8 different series, or 9 different series. That's even more actually when you consider NHRA. So double-digit amount of racing series in the Roundup. We will preview Formula One in the Miami parking lot for the second time. The Hard Rock Stadium parking lot with the fake marina and the whole thing. Cup and Trucks will be at Kansas and more. So for that, we thank you for listening to Grip Strip Podcast. We hope you continue to listen. Look for us on our socials and when we contribute to other things like the Grid Talk or Formula Talk like I did earlier today with Sophia. So for Josh, I'm Phil. Take care, and we'll talk to you next week after I get to bowl with a bunch of PBA pros, so that'll be pretty cool. Take care, God bless, and goodbye.